My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content. Hey gang, welcome back. Today we're in for a different kind of an interview because my guest today is a very, very accomplished and experienced real estate investor. He's been in and around real estate for 40 plus years, and he focuses a lot on industrial real estate. So we'll talk about that. But what I'm really curious about as well is Joel Friedland is also a big proponent of low debt investing, low to no debt investing. In other words, not using the banks to buy these kind of properties and then holding on to them long term. So zooming in from Chicago, Illinois, we've got Joel Friedland. So Joel, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Thanks, Dave. It's great to be with you today.
So Joel, we're doing this interview mid 2025. Can you zoom out, give us a little snapshot of what does the business look like? What kind of properties do you have? How many units or properties? However you guys count them? What do things look like?
Sure. Well, I believe in laser focus. I believe in doing one thing incredibly well by doing it often, as opposed to doing many, many things kind of mediocrely. So I do one thing, and that is I syndicate industrial real estate in the Chicago area. And it's so much of a niche business that when I break it down, you're going to say, you just do that and that's all. And yeah, small buildings with tenants that manufacture products.
Okay.
Who stay hopefully forever, however long ever is, and who continuously renew their lease because they can't afford to move, where the investors generally put in an average of $50,000 per deal. And on a typical deal will raise $3 million, $5 million, $12 million, all cash, no mortgage. And so we could have 40 or 60 or 100 investors or more in a particular deal. And we shoot for 7 to 8% returns. When I say return, yield, in addition to future potential upside.
Yeah, so cash on cash, basically.
Cash on cash, right,
Yep.
right. And we hold long term. We have people who call us and say, hey, I'd like to invest. And I have a philosophy, which is I'd like to go long term. Well, those are our people. And if somebody says,
long term means, what does long term mean to you, Joel, and to your investors?
We've bought 104 buildings, and we started in 1989 when I was in my 20s, and now I'm in my 60s, and we still have one building from when I was in my 20s. So we're talking about the 1980s.
Yeah.
A lot of the buildings we've owned for 20 years, 25 years, 15 years, 10 years. However, we sell when the selling is good. So if a tenant doesn't renew its lease, say we have a building and we've owned it for 20 years, and the tenant says, hey, Joel, we're growing. We've grown out of the building. We're leaving. We try to find another tenant because we like to keep long term. But if we paid $1 million for a building and we don't have a tenant and a buyer comes along and says, we'll pay you $3 million for the building, okay. All right, ring the bell.
Okay. And that's part of the advantage of holding on to these things for decades.
Yes.
Is that the value has gone up because, I mean, most people are in such a short-term 2-year, 3-year, 5-year kind of mindset about in and out that they have to time the market so much. But in your case, and especially if they lose an anchor tenant or a major tenant, that tanks the value of their property if they just bought it 6 months ago, 12 months ago. But you guys, you've held on to it so long that, the market has just raised the value of these properties. So yeah, it gives you a lot more flexibility.
Yeah. And after we've owned a property for a lot of years, the returns, the yield goes up because our buildings generally have tenants with annual escalations built into the leases, usually 2 to 4% a year. So with that,
Are you doing triple net type stuff with the
yeah,
properties?
yeah, we're
Yeah.
doing a lot of triple net. So the
Nice.
tenants pay for everything. It's as if they own it. They pay the taxes, the insurance, the maintenance, the utilities, the repairs.
And the rent.
Tenant just put a new roof on a building and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars of their money putting the roof on.
Yeah.
And we enjoy not having to worry about paying for things. The tenants pay.
Yeah. So, Joel, how did you kind of come across this or come up with this philosophy? Was this hard earned? Was this from some mistakes in the past, or did you get some wise advice, or did you just kind of have the epiphany that, hey, no debt is better than being overly leveraged?
Well, 40-year-old cocky, stupid Joel had a lot of buildings. We had 50 buildings in 2008. And
Hmm.
those 50 buildings all had debt. And we had 7 banks, and I had guaranteed $70 million worth of loans. And um, mental health is really important to me, and my mental health went south because,
I can, oh my God, I can't even imagine.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
So I guard my mental health and my financial health equally. Not I'm not looking to get rich and be a crazy person with mental health issues and go, hey, I'm a cocky guy. I don't want any of that. I
Been there,
I
done
like
that.
to, yeah, I
Yeah.
like to say steady, good judgment, good thinking, good decisions. That to me helps the mental health stay in a good place. And for me, I realize that if there's a crash in the market and we have debt, it could happen again. And I just don't want that to happen. So I like to sleep well at night. My investors are like-minded. They like to sleep well at night. So we appeal to a special kind of group, which is extremely conservative, wealthy people who like the long-term hold and are not looking to get in and get out. We don't even do an IRR. People say, "What's the IRR?" And I say, "Irrelevant." It stands for irrelevant. IRR. That's how you spell it. What we try to do is we try to make a nice average annual return for a 20-year hold or a 12-year hold of somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 20%. And if we do that, we're doing great. And if it's 12 or it's 10, not so bad. Most people would take 10% a year
Yeah.
consistently for 12 or 15 years all day long. So all these guys who have these hyped up IRRs because they're going to they're going to put magic fairy dust on the building and they're going to buy it for a cap rate of 6 and they're going to sell it for a cap rate of 5 in 4 years. It's salesmanship and bullshit,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah.
You don't know if the market's good, it'll work. If the market's bad, it won't. So we don't do that. We just buy for the long term, for the good return, for the solid return, and for the safety.
Yeah. That's making a lot of sense. So, not to bring back bad memories, but zipping back to '08 when you had all of that debt, I'm thinking there was a, happy ending to that story because you still got one of the properties that you had in your 20s. So evidently you didn't go completely bankrupt and lose everything. So how did you make it through that challenging time?
Oh, it was really difficult.
Yeah.
You look at the couch behind me. I
Yeah.
still have this office, and this is my home office, and that was my couch, and I was on it, and I couldn't get off it.
Mm,
So how did I get through it? Well, first I said, how could I have been so stupid? Why wasn't I thinking better? And I got angry at myself, and anger turned in becomes depression, and I got very depressed, and I needed some help. I needed some attention from medication and from
yeah.
counseling, and I went through that, and it was really hellish. It took years to turn it around, but of the 50 buildings, we only lost one to a lender.
Amazing.
We did lose others. It's hard to admit when you lose a building that you're losing the building because something bad happened. When you lose a building, it's like quiet quitting. You quietly quit owning the building. You sell it maybe at a loss or for far less than it would be worth if you could hang on to it. But staying
Yeah.
power is everything. And we had enough staying power with enough of it that 40 of the buildings were okay. The the 10 bad ones that were the worst, we had something called a forbearance agreement at 3 banks. That's where they make you pay down the debt and they make you give them information every week. And the workout department is all over you and they're telling you that they're going to take you down if you don't do this and you don't do that. It's the worst experience. And how I got through it really was just persevering. And my investors, I was honest with them and they were supportive and they didn't make demands. They said, please get us through this. We've been in deals where we've lost all our money. Please don't do that to us.
Yeah.
I got up off the couch. If you fall down, you got to get up. Took a while.
Hmm.
And I just worked really hard to save the day. And most of my investors who are with me today were with me back then. And one of the reasons that we stick is because they say, look, you went through the worst time and we're still here with you. So
Yeah.
we're
Not
with
only
you
that,
in the future.
you went through the worst time, but then you learned from that and you adjusted your approach to purchasing buildings and said, don't want to deal with those forbearance situations ever again. So that means no banks.
Right.
Okay. So when the smoke cleared, you had 40 of those buildings still left with debt on them. Did you kind of focus on paying them down, paying them off? What did you do with the
Yeah.
portfolio at that point, Joel?
Yeah. Have you ever heard the term deleveraging? That's the
Yeah.
opposite of leveraging. I was deleveraging, paying down debt. If you live long enough and you are able to pay it down year by year by year, it actually goes down or goes away eventually. And that's happened in a lot of the cases. We have buildings that we've owned since the 1990s that have no debt. It didn't start out that way, but it's
But you
great because,
paid them off over time. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And if a tenant gets in trouble, we have a tenant in a building on Bryn Mawr Avenue. It's funny. It's at the corner of Bryn Mawr and Tripp. Tripp is the street that Walt Disney was born on in Chicago.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
We have 2 buildings on Tripp. I'm a big fan of Walt Disney. So in that case, we have a tenant that makes exhibits for children's museums all around the world. But it's a gig business. Like if you're a musician and you're not like a famous rock star, you
Yeah.
go from gig to gig to gig. Everything's new. You have to go start every time you get a new gig, they pay you a couple $1,000s to go play your music. She's in a gig business. She has to make exhibits when she gets an order. Like
Yeah.
Switzerland, Zurich, Switzerland has a children's museum. They say, we want a thing where the balls go through the little tubes, and she designs it and makes it. But she's working on that one and one other one. And when that particular exhibit is built in Zurich, she needs a new gig. And if she's got
Yeah.
an empty space, there's no money coming in. So she's constantly calling me and saying, the money's coming. I've got money due. I've got a new job coming. So that one on Tripp and Bryn Mawr is a major problem, but it's got no debt.
Hmm.
So I can give her some grace and say, Pamela, I'm sorry you're having a rough time. Why don't we give you half rent for 3 months and then let's get that half rent back. So it's 3 months of half rent. It's a month and a half of rent. Why don't we get that back over the next full year? You can spread it.
Wow.
So it's
Yeah.
amazing to be able to do that. At some point, enough is enough, and she has to.
I'm thinking, yeah, you're a very patient
Uh,
man there, Joel.
yeah, I mean, we treat our tenants well, but we're not idiots.
Yeah.
So at some point, a bad tenant has to go. In all the years I've been doing this, I've probably had maybe 400 tenants in buildings. I've only had 4 problems. It's 1%. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's pretty good.
yeah.
Unfortunately, we tend to remember those more than the
I can name them and I can tell you what happened. Those are the ones, yeah. Those are the ones I remember. And my investors don't like those because
yeah.
I write a letter, hey, the cash flow is going down on this one because the tenant's in trouble. But usually it turns around and we get a new tenant and everybody forgets. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
the rent's back and the cash flow is back.
So sorry, Joel, you told me this at the beginning, but it slipped my mind. How many properties do you guys currently have on the go?
We currently have 22.
22. Okay.
Yeah. So we've sold over 80 over
Hmm.
the years. So people say, you're never a seller. Oh yeah, well, I've sold 80 in 40 years. So I'm not never a seller. Sell about 2 a year, but hopefully we buy 3 a year these days or
Okay.
4 a year. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so what's kind of your buy box when you're looking for these properties? You're laser focused on industrial, you're laser focused on Chicago,
Yeah.
you're laser focused on ideally people building stuff. So, I mean, you pretty much must know every single property around, I'm
We
guessing.
do. We do.
Yeah.
We know every property. We know every industrial real estate broker. There's a group of industrial brokers around the world called SIOR, Society of Industrial and Office Realtors. And pretty much they control the industrial leasing and sale market in every place in the world, including in Canada. We have a close friend who's got a podcast in Canada, and it's the big industrial one, and he has the same issues that we do.
Yeah.
Uh, and so we like good geometry. Geometry matters. If you have a multifamily complex or a home, you know the good geometry. The parking's in the right place. So for our buildings, the parking's either in the front or on the side. We don't want it in the back because if it's in the back, people who work in the office have to walk through the warehouse or manufacturing facility to get to the office from the back on a cold or rainy day. Well,
Okay.
nobody wants that. So we want the parking to be near the office. We want the truck docks because loading is everything for an industrial building. We want the truck docks to have lots of maneuvering room because trucks are very large and they
Hmm.
need space to maneuver into and out of the dock. We like the number of docks to be consistent. We like to have one dock for every 10 or 15,000 square feet of building. So if it's a 30,000 foot building, we'd like to have two docks. We also like high ceilings. People stack stuff up. They have racks and they have machines, and nobody wants a low ceiling in an industrial building. So our preference is 16 feet minimum, although we like 18, 20. And today, if you drive by an industrial building occupied by Amazon, which are all
Mm.
industrial buildings, those are 35, 40-foot clear ceiling heights.
Wow.
And those are class A buildings. We buy the older class B buildings, which means they're older, they have lower ceilings and some other compromises. But manufacturers need a lot of power because they have to plug in their machines. So we like to have good electric. We like to have 600 amps,
Yeah.
480 volts. I've got a list
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
what we like and what we don't. And we will turn down a building that's got parking in the back, and we'll turn down a building that's 11 or 12-foot clear ceiling. And if it doesn't have a loading dock, I'm not interested. Because if you own them long term, you have to be able to release them and they have to be very desirable to tenants. But even more, if you buy the right building and it's a single tenant building, if you don't release it but sell it, the value to a user, which is usually a neighbor in the industrial park, is 40% or 50% higher than if you sold it as a leased building on a cap rate. So
Really?
our exit
Okay.
strategy is selling to neighbors.
Dumb question. Why are they willing to pay such a premium?
Well, because an industrial building is a tool for their business. And so if they're doing, let's say, $30 million, we have a tenant that makes fruit juice. It's called Tampico, and
Yeah.
they're all over the world. You lived in Costa Rica. They're in Costa Rica, right?
Hmm.
So Tampico um, has these tanks and tubes, and they make goop. It's a formula that's fruit concentrate,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they make it in their building, and they can't move. They can't move. So let's say they're doing $100 million in business in revenue, and let's say they're making, and I'm just if you're listening, Tampico, I'm making these numbers up. Let's say they make 10 million a year.
Yeah.
They don't really care if the building next door when they need it costs 1 million or 3 million, because if they get a mortgage, even today it's 7% on $2 million more a building. Rather than paying a million, they pay 3 million, and they have to pay 7% on the extra 2 million. That's 140,000 a year. But if they're making 10 million a year and by moving into my building they can make 12 million a year, do they care
Yeah.
about the 140,000 extra to be next door and connect the building with a tunnel? They can build a little uh, causeway. There's no water. It's like a
Yeah,
little,
so it's all about the convenience factor, right? They
yeah,
don't have to.
yeah. Yeah, the cheese king of Schiller Park, Illinois, Global Foods, needed a refrigerated and freezer type building as close to them as possible. And the building directly across the street came on the market. So, how badly do they need it? Well, are they going to go back and forth using a forklift truck from one dock across the street to the other? Yes. And if they're making $4 million a year in net profit, do they care if the building costs them an extra 100,000 a year? No.
No.
So it's a tool for their business, and that's where we have our strategy. Our exit strategy is we don't sell on cap rates to investors ever. We sell to the guy across the street or the guy next door. And when that
Smart.
guy's ready, he's ready.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense now that you've laid it out just like that. That's perfect. So as we're recording this mid 2025 now, Joel, what are the plans for the next 12 months? Just chug along. It sounds like you got a very good model. So just keep chugging.
We're really enjoying our business. This summer, we've got 5 interns, and so we're teaching some young college students the business. And in exchange for teaching, they do marketing for us. They knock on doors to ask owners of properties if they'll sell.
Oh, so
Last
you do buy direct. You do buy
year,
direct as well. Yeah.
we buy direct 9 out of 10 deals.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, we
No.
knock on doors. I knock on doors. I actually yesterday went to a town called Franklin Park with my new young intern, and his family used to own the building because they had a business in the building. And I said, "Hey, you want to go to Franklin Park and see your grandpa's old building?" And he said, "Yeah." So we actually walked in, met the new owner of the building that bought it from his grandpa.
Yeah.
We walked around and toured the building. It was like sort of going back in time for him. He's 20 years old. And I said to the guy, "You want to sell the building?" And so it was a cold call. I we in our office between all of us, we make an average of 50 cold calls a week to ask people if they're looking to sell.
Really? Okay. Now, numbers wise, what does that typically turn into? You're doing 50 cold calls a week. If my memory is correct, you're looking to do about 3 deals a year. So is that kind of the numbers that you've had
Yeah,
consistently
it's
for
one out
over
of a
time?
thousand.
Yeah.
We knock on 1,000 doors, we get one building.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's terrible. It's
Well,
discouraging. It's discouraging.
for your competition, that's
Well,
discouraging for them.
to knock on 1,000 doors and ask people if they want to sell and only get one seller is really hard. But
Yeah.
we want to buy. Let's say we want to buy 6 buildings this year. It's a big year. We want to buy 6 buildings. We literally have to knock on 6,000 doors, and that's
Yeah.
tough. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Well, I mean, you're knocking on doors. You're not just getting, it's 1,000 to get one deal, but you've probably, you know, had discussions with a lot more, and then there's follow up after that. And there's all that kind of good stuff that eventually turns into
Yeah,
money.
the fortunes and the follow up. Have you ever heard the rule of seven? The rule of
Hmm.
seven is if you contact somebody and talk to them and have a legitimate communication with them 7 times, you're 7 times more likely to do business with them than if you call 7 people once.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah.
So we just go back and we go back and we go back. This guy, Jim, and his wife, Diane, said maybe they would sell. They told me back 3 months ago, maybe we'll sell. And I've called him and talked to him over the past several months, once a week, once every 2 weeks. And today he called me and he said, "We're ready."
Nice. Congratulations. That's that persistence.
It was more than seven. If
Yeah.
3 months every 2 weeks, that's like seven. Yeah, I guess that's
Yeah.
seven.
Awesome, Joel. Well, hey, you know what? Time flies when we're having fun here, my friend. So if people are interested in connecting with you, which I'm sure a lot will, what's the best way for people to find out more about Joel Friedland and what you're up to?
Our website is britproperties.com. There's one T in Brit, BRIT properties.com. And we've got kind of a fun website. We have pictures of us playing tennis saying
I saw that.
we don't
It's
ace
very different.
we don't ace tennis, but we do give our investors a whatever the term is for tennis when you hit the ball to them and send them some cash for it.
Volley, good
Oh,
volleys. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just out of curiosity, Brit properties, where did that come from?
You're not
Brit
going to
is,
believe it. You're not
yeah.
going to believe it. Okay. Well, first of all, the story I tell people is that we had a property manager about 7, 8 years ago. We sold our prior company, and I started this after exiting the other company. And the guy's name was Brad. And I needed a name, and Brad wanted a raise. I said, instead of giving you a raise, we're going to name the company after you, our new company. Brad really is terrific. So, so Brad, the company's named after Brad.
And he can't get a raise ever again.
You can't have a raise. The company's named after you. It's your
That's
company.
right. Well, hey, that is smart negotiations there, my friend. Well, Joel, thanks so much for being on the call. This has been a lot of fun.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, everybody, take care. We will see you on the next one. Hey there. I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewsyou.com.